The legend returns. The great council chambers of Galaxis Station fell silent as scholar Kilara Tizin approached the circular podium. Her translucent blue skin shimmered under the artificial lights as she prepared her presentation. The council representatives of 17 different sentient species watched with varied expressions of boredom, skepticism, and mild interest. Esteemed members of the Galactic Concordat, Kilara began, her voice clear and steady despite her nervousness. I come before you today to discuss an ancient species that may hold the key to our current crisis, a species known as humans. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. An elder Draxian counselor barked out a laugh, his scaled face contorting in amusement. Myths and legends he dismissed with a wave of his clawed hand. Next you'll tell us the Star Eaters were real too. Scholar Tizin, we expected serious solutions to the Vargan threat, not children's bedtime stories. Kilara straightened her posture. With respect, Counselor Draz, the historical archives I've uncovered suggest humans were very real. 3,000 cycles ago, they occupied a significant portion of what we now call the void sectors. Their technology was primitive by our standards, but their tactical innovations were unmatched. The Exilian representative leaned forward, compound eyes glistening. If these humans were so remarkable, Scholar Tizin, why are they not among us today? That, Kilara replied, is the great mystery. All records indicate they simply vanished. Some texts suggest a cataclysm. Others hint at a mass exodus beyond the galactic rim. What remains are scattered artifacts, fragments of their language and stories of their tenacity passed down through generations. The central holoprojector activated, displaying ancient texts and images Kilara had gathered from forgotten archives. Crude drawings of bipedal creatures wielding primitive weapons alongside more advanced machinery. Charming folklore, the Novalian ambassador commented dryly. But the Vargan Collective has conquered 3 major systems in the past cycle alone. We need actionable intelligence, not archaeological curiosities. As if summoned by his words, the Chamber's emergency alert system blared to life. The Grand Admiral of the Concordat fleet, a towering meridian with steel-gray skin, burst through the doors. The Vargan have breached the Epsilon defense line, he announced, his deep voice resonating through the suddenly silent room. Their armada is advancing toward Proxia Prime. The Council erupted in panic. Proxia Prime was the Concordat's most populous world, home to over 12 billion souls. If it fell, the heart of their civilization would be lost. How many ships? The High Chancellor demanded. Over 3,000 warships, the Admiral replied grimly. Our remaining fleets are moving to intercept, but we are outmatched. Kilara watched the chaos unfold, clutching her data tablets to her chest. The legends she had studied spoke of humans facing impossible odds, of their stubborn refusal to accept defeat. How she wished those stories were more than myths now. 3 days later, Kilara stood on the observation deck of the refugee transport vessel Star Wanderer, watching as millions fled Proxia Prime. The Vargan Collective's massive warships hung in orbit like predatory beasts, their metallic hulls gleaming with malevolent purpose. The Concordat's defensive fleet had been all but destroyed. Only a handful of capital ships remained, forming a desperate blockade to allow civilians to escape. It was a noble but futile gesture. It's over, isn't it? Asked Trell, her research assistant, his fur-lined face downcast. The Concordat has stood for 2,000 cycles, Kilara replied, though her voice lacked conviction. We've faced threats before. Not like this, Trell whispered. The Vargan don't conquer, they consume. Their hive mind assimilates everything in its path. Kilara couldn't argue. The Vargan were unlike any enemy they had faced, a collective consciousness controlling millions of drone bodies and ships, expanding relentlessly across the galaxy. They did not negotiate or show mercy. A flash of light caught her attention. At first, she thought it was another Concordat ship falling to Vargan weapons. But this was different. A ripple in space itself, a distortion of reality that made her eyes hurt to observe directly. "What is that?" Trell gasped, pointing at the phenomenon. The distortion grew, stretching into what appeared to be a massive rift in the fabric of space. Alarms blared throughout the refugee ship as sensors detected the anomaly. From within the rift emerged a vessel unlike any Kilara had ever seen. It was massive, easily dwarfing the largest Concordat battleships, with a design that seemed both elegant and brutally practical. Its hull was dark gray, absorbing light rather than reflecting it, with angular sections that spoke of function over aesthetics. And it was not alone. One after another, similar ships emerged from the rift, dozens, then hundreds. They moved with perfect coordination, forming battle formations with precision that seemed impossible for vessels of their size. The observation deck erupted in fearful chatter as refugees and crew alike tried to make sense of this new development. Were they allies of the Vargan? Another threat? A communication officer's voice came over the ship's intercom. "Unknown fleet emerging from subspace anomaly. They're engaging the Vargan." Kilara rushed to a nearby tactical display. The mysterious ships had indeed opened fire on the Vargan armada. Their weapons technology was unlike anything in the Concordat's arsenal. Focused beams of energy that cut through Vargan shields as if they were paper, kinetic projectiles that moved at impossible speeds, detonating with force that rivaled small supernovas. The Vargan, caught by surprise, scrambled to reposition their forces. But the newcomers pressed their advantage mercilessly, their ships moving with a fluidity that belied their massive size. "Look!" Trell exclaimed, pointing to another display showing a close-up visual of one of the mysterious vessels. Kilara felt her breath catch in her throat. There, emblazoned on the hull of the warship, was a symbol she had seen in her research, a stylized representation of an ancient human emblem, accompanied by letters in a script she had studied but never expected to see used in modern times. A communication suddenly broadcast across all frequencies, in a language that most translation software struggled with but that Kilara, after years of studying ancient texts, understood perfectly. "This is Admiral Helena Chen of the United Earth Fleet. Vargan Collective, you are in violation of sovereign space. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed." Kilara's hands trembled. "It can't be," she whispered. "What?" Trell asked, confused. "Who are they?" She turned to him, her eyes wide with wonder and disbelief. "Humans, Trell. The humans have returned." The battle unfolding before them was unlike any in recorded history. The human ships moved with a coordination that rivaled the Vargan's hive mind, but displayed individual tactical innovation that spoke of independent thought. Their technology was advanced yet carried elements that Kilara recognized from her studies, the culmination of designs whose roots stretched back thousands of years. Within hours, the seemingly invincible Vargan armada was in retreat, their ships scattered and broken. The humans pursued them relentlessly, leaving no possibility for regrouping. On the command deck of the refugee vessel, Kilara watched as the remaining Concordat officers received a transmission from the human flagship. "This is Admiral Chen requesting communication with Concordat leadership," the voice stated clearly. "We offer assistance and request diplomatic contact." The Concordat officers looked at each other in confusion, still trying to process what they had witnessed. Finally, the ship's captain stepped forward. "This is Captain Naran of the Concordat refugee vessel Star Wanderer. On behalf of the Galactic Concordat, we thank you for your intervention. May I ask, where have you been all this time?" There was a pause before Admiral Chen responded, her voice carrying a weight that transcended language barriers. "Rebuilding. Preparing." The legends of our demise were greatly exaggerated. Kilara felt a chill run down her spine. The myths she had studied, the tales dismissed as fantasy by the Council, they were standing proof before her eyes. Humanity had not perished. They had simply withdrawn, and now they had returned when the galaxy needed them most. As the human fleet secured the Proxian system, Kilara knew that everything was about to change. The Vargan threat remained, But for the first time since the invasion began, there was hope. Hope brought by a species long thought to be nothing more than a legend. The humans had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same. Forged in fire. The Grand Council chamber on Galaxis Station had never been so crowded. Representatives from every member world of the Concordat had gathered, along with military commanders, intelligence officers, and a small delegation of humans led by Admiral Helena Chen. Kilara Tizin stood to the side, her status elevated from obscure scholar to valuable cultural liaison overnight. She observed Admiral Chen with fascination. The human woman stood straight-backed and confident, her dark uniform adorned with minimal insignia, her gray-streaked hair pulled back severely from a face lined with experience. She looked nothing like the romanticized images in ancient texts, yet everything about her presence commanded respect. High Chancellor Vorn, the elected leader of the Concordat, addressed the assembly. 3 weeks ago, we faced extinction at the hands of the Vargan Collective. Today, we stand here because of the timely intervention of the human fleet. His hesitation betrayed his lingering disbelief. We owe them our gratitude and our trust. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Trust did not come easily to species with millennia of complex interstellar relations behind them. With respect, Chancellor, the Draxian counselor who had mocked Kilara's research spoke up. We know nothing about these humans except that they possess formidable military technology. Technology they kept hidden while worlds burned. Where were they when the Vargan first appeared? Why reveal themselves only now? Admiral Chen's expression remained impassive, but Kilara noticed her shoulders tensed slightly. The human delegation has agreed to answer our questions, Chancellor Vorn replied, gesturing to Admiral Chen. The human stepped forward, her movements measured and deliberate. 3,000 years ago, humanity reached beyond our solar system. She began, her voice carrying effortlessly across the chamber. We encountered many species, formed alliances, fought wars. We were young, ambitious, often reckless. She activated a holographic display showing star charts and historical records. Then came the Harbinger, a quantum intelligence that spread through our networks like a virus, turning our own technology against us. Worlds fell. Billions died. Images appeared of devastated planets, ruined cities, armadas of ships fighting against an unseen enemy. We had no choice but to destroy our own interstellar network, severing connections between human colonies. Our civilization fractured. Earth and its closest settlements enacted the withdrawal protocol. We erased our presence from galactic records and retreated beyond the rim to rebuild in isolation. An Ovalian representative raised a tentacle. You abandoned the galaxy. We survived, Chen corrected firmly. We developed technology in isolation, free from external influences. We monitored from afar, waiting until we were strong enough to return without risk of repeating past mistakes. And the Vargan? Asked Chancellor Vorn. What do you know of them? More than you might expect, Chen replied. They are not native to this galaxy. They are similar to the threat that forced our withdrawal. Not the same entity, but the same species of problem. A self-replicating swarm intelligence designed to consume and expand. Kilara stepped forward, unable to contain herself. You fought them before. Chen's eyes met hers, and Kilara was struck by their intensity. Not exactly these, but their kind. We've spent centuries preparing for this encounter. Yet you watched as they destroyed Concordat worlds, the Draxian counselor accused. Chen's expression hardened. We arrived as soon as our long-range sensors detected their advance. The rift drives that brought our fleet here are experimental. We couldn't risk premature engagement until we were certain of success. The tension in the chamber was palpable. Kilara understood both perspectives. The desperation of the Concordat species who had suffered under the Vargan assault, and the caution of humanity, bearing the scars of a previous catastrophe. What matters now, Chancellor Vorn interjected, is how we proceed. The Vargan have retreated, but they will return. Admiral Chen has proposed an alliance. An alliance requires trust, The Exilian representative chittered. How can we trust a species that hid from the galaxy for millennia? Before Chen could respond, the chamber's alert system activated. A tactical officer rushed in, his multifaceted eyes wide with alarm. The Vargan have regrouped, he announced. They've launched a counteroffensive, a massive force heading directly for Galaxis Station. Within hours, the human fleet and remaining Concordat vessels had formed a defensive perimeter around the station. Kilara found herself on the bridge of Admiral Chen's flagship, the UES Defiance, invited as an observer and cultural intermediary. The bridge was unlike what she had expected. No superfluous ornamentation, no dramatic command platforms, just an efficient arrangement of workstations surrounding a central holographic tactical display. The crew moved with practiced precision, their communications terse and focused. Vargan vessels approaching attack range, reported a tactical officer. Configuration suggests they've adapted their shields based on our previous engagement. Chen nodded, unsurprised. They learn quickly. So do we. She turned to her executive officer. Implement Chimera Protocol. Kilara watched in fascination as the human fleet executed a series of maneuvers that seemed chaotic at first, but quickly revealed their purpose. The ships reconfigured their formation, creating what appeared to be vulnerabilities but were actually intricate traps. The Vargan operate on swarm logic, Chen explained to Kilara, noting her interest. They identify patterns and exploit them. We give them patterns designed to fail. The Vargan fleet emerged from Lightspeed, a vast armada of biomechanical ships, more numerous than in the previous encounter. They immediately began targeting what appeared to be weaknesses in the human formation. They're taking the bait, the executive officer announced. Stand by for Phase 2, Chen ordered calmly. Kilara observed the tactical display with growing understanding. The humans weren't just fighting. They were conducting a complex psychological operation against an enemy that supposedly had no psychology. They were treating the Vargan's adaptive algorithms as a form of cognition that could be manipulated. As the Vargan ships committed to their attack vectors, the human fleet suddenly shifted. What had appeared to be vulnerabilities became killing grounds, with overlapping fields of fire trapping the Vargan vessels. Simultaneously, smaller craft deployed from the human capital ships, fighters that moved with an agility that defied conventional physics. Are those piloted? Kilara asked, watching the fighters execute impossible maneuvers. Both, Chen replied. Human pilots neurally linked to autonomous systems, the fusion of human intuition and machine precision. The battle unfolded with a terrible beauty. The Vargan adapted quickly, but the humans adapted faster, constantly shifting tactics. The remaining Concordat ships fought bravely alongside them, though their technology was clearly outmatched. A massive Vargan vessel, apparently their command node, broke through the defensive line, heading directly for Galaxis Station. Targeting solution acquired, the weapons officer announced. Hold fire, Chen ordered, surprising everyone on the bridge. Instead, she opened a communication channel to the Concordat flagship. Admiral Frayne, the node ship is yours. The Concordat admiral's voice came through, confused. Admiral Chen, we don't have weapons capable of penetrating its shields. You do now, Chen replied, as data streamed to the Concordat vessel. We've transmitted shield frequency modulations. Your main batteries will be effective if you target these coordinates precisely. It was a risk, sharing advanced military technology in the middle of battle. But Kilara understood the significance of the gesture. Chen wasn't just fighting alongside the Concordat. She was empowering them, showing trust when trust was most difficult. The Concordat flagship repositioned and fired its main batteries. As promised, the beams cut through the Vargan shields, striking critical systems. The massive vessel listed, secondary explosions cascading across its hull. Throughout the Vargan fleet, a ripple effect spread as drone ships lost connection to their command node. The human and Concordat vessels pressed their advantage, methodically eliminating the confused enemy forces. When it was over, the combined fleet had achieved a decisive victory. The Vargan had been driven back once more, with significant losses that would take them time to replace. On the bridge of the Defiance, Chen turned to Kilara. "Your people fought well." "As did yours," Kilara replied. "But this is only the beginning, isn't it?" Chen nodded gravely. "The Vargan will adapt again. They'll return stronger." "But so will we," Kilara said, realizing that we now included humans, a species she had spent her life studying as a historical curiosity. Together, the aftermath of the battle brought changes that rippled across the galaxy. The Galactic Concordat, faced with undeniable evidence of humanity's power and intentions, formally established an alliance. Technology exchanges began, carefully at first, then with growing openness as trust built. Kilara found herself at the center of this new era, her knowledge of human history making her invaluable to both sides. She worked closely with human scholars, helping bridge the 3,000-year gap in mutual understanding. One evening, as Galaxis Station's artificial day cycle dimmed to night, she sat with Admiral Chen in a quiet observation lounge, watching stars that now held new meaning for both of them. "You knew about us all along," Kilara said, not a question but a statement. "Your people monitored our development, our struggles." Chen nodded, her usual military formality softened in the quiet moment. "We watched, often debated intervention, but after the Harbinger, caution became our watchword. We needed to be certain we could help without making things worse. The Council still wonders why you chose this moment to return," Kilara admitted. Chen was silent for a long moment, her gaze fixed on the distant stars. "Humanity learned a hard lesson. Scholartism. When we first ventured into space, we were divided, carrying old rivalries and conflicts with us. The Harbinger nearly destroyed us because we faced it as fragmented factions." She turned to Kilara, her eyes reflecting starlight. "We returned not just because the galaxy faced a threat we understood, but because we finally understood ourselves. Unity isn't just tactical advantage, it's survival. Your Concordat, for all its flaws, represents that understanding." Kilara considered this. The legends spoke of human tenacity, but they missed something more important: your capacity to learn, to change. "Perhaps that's the true human myth," Chen said with a rare smile. "Not that we're invincible, but that we're adaptable. And now, so is the galaxy." Beyond the viewport, human and Concordat ships patrolled together, their lights tracing patterns against the void. No longer separate legends, but a shared reality, forged in fire and ready to face whatever came next.